I'll never forget the morning I stepped outside and found a bright orange. Notice to vacate, nailed to my front gate, 72 hours to leave the land I'd built with my own hands. It was signed by Olivia Adams, the self-appointed queen of the newly formed HOA next door. 20 years I'd lived on that ranch, and somehow this woman thought a clipboard made her God. She had no idea that less than 24 hours later, 300 Marines would be lined up across her perfect little subdivision, and her whole empire would crumble in front of her neighbors, the media, and half the county. I didn't want a war, not at first. I'd spent 40 years overseas watching real chaos dust storms that swallowed tanks nights where the only light came from tracer rounds. When I finally retired, all I wanted was the sound of the wind through the pine trees. I built my ranch the way some people build a sanctuary, slow, steady, with gratitude. My days were simple: feed the horses, mend the fence, ride the ATV at sunset just to see the deer cross the ridge. Peaceful, predictable, mine. Then Silver Creek Estate started creeping up the hillside with its white fences and matching shutters and lawns trimmed so identical it looked like a video game. I didn't mind them at first. People live how they want. But then came the HOA letters slipped under my gate, printed in fonts that screamed importance but meant absolutely nothing to me. They said my barn didn't meet community color standards. My fence wasn't visually harmonious. My ranch sign required approval. I laughed. Out loud. Hard. It was so ridiculous I thought it had to be a mistake. So I called the number on the bottom of the notice. A cheerful woman answered Silver Creek HOA office. "This is Cheryl." I explained I wasn't part of their subdivision, had never been, and didn't plan on joining their club. Cheryl said she'd let the president know. A week later, the president arrived in person. You ever seen a person who walks like they're already disappointed in you? That was Olivia Adams. Pink suit, sunglasses too big for her face, heels clicking across gravel like she thought she was entering a courtroom, clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. "Good morning," she said in a voice tight enough to snap. "I'm here regarding your property." I wiped my hands on my jeans. "You must be Olivia." "I am the HOA president," she corrected, as if that was supposed to impress me. "We've received complaints about your property's rustic appearance." "Ma'am, I said it's a ranch." She ignored that. Silver Creek is moving toward a unified aesthetic. White barns, approved fencing, no visible equipment from the street. She stopped at my gate sign. And definitely no military branding. I stared at her. "Lady, I've lived here longer than your HOA has existed." She smiled a slow, practiced smile that felt like a trap. Boundaries can change. That was the first time I realized I wasn't dealing with a neighbor. I was dealing with a tyrant armed with bylaws she didn't understand and authority she didn't have. Over the next few weeks, the letters kept coming, each one more outrageous than the last. Final notice, violation. Penalty, non-standard flag, non-compliant roof, illegal horse corral. I tossed everything into a folder labeled comedy material because truly, that's what it felt like. But things changed the day I overheard someone at the local diner whisper, "Olivia says she's going to force that old Marine off his land. Says he's dragging down property values." That's when I knew she wasn't playing HOA. She was trying to conquer. So I attended their next meeting. It was held in their fancy new clubhouse, marble floors, chandeliers, seating arranged like a mock courtroom. 20 residents sat quietly while Olivia listed violations, proposals, landscaping punishments. When I raised my hand, she froze like someone had unplugged her. "Yes, Colonel," she said through clenched teeth. "I'd like to address your zoning claims," I said. "Your letters say my land is part of Silver Creek." "This isn't the place for private disputes," she snapped. "It became my business the moment you nailed notices to my fence." I handed her my federal land deed, stamped, notarized, recorded 20 years before their subdivision even existed. "This ranch is veteran-granted sovereign property. You have zero jurisdiction." Residents whispered. Some smirked. Olivia went pale, then bright red like a thermometer about to burst. But she didn't back off. People like Olivia don't retreat. They double down. The next morning I found the orange notice to vacate. 6 pages. Accusations, bylaws, threats, a deadline. her signature curling dramatically at the bottom like she'd practiced it in the mirror. For a long moment, standing there with Daisy, the dog nudging my leg, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, not fear, something worse. Doubt. What if this fight wasn't worth it? What if I was too old for this? What if moving away would be easier than dealing with this never-ending noise? Maybe I was being stubborn. Maybe I should just pack up, leave, find peace somewhere else. For a moment, just a moment, I considered giving up. Then the wind shifted, carrying the smell of hay dust and freedom. Freedom I'd earned with decades of service. I looked at my barn, my land, the mountains beyond, and something inside me snapped back into place. No, I said out loud, not today. I contacted Sheriff Morales. He and a deputy came by, reviewed the deed, the maps, the boundaries. This is cut and dry, Morales said. You're outside their jurisdiction. They step over that fence again, you call us. Finally, someone who dealt in facts, not fantasies. But HOA Karens don't go quietly. That afternoon, their compliance team showed up in a white SUV trying to photograph violations. They wouldn't step onto my property because my dog greeted them first. They left with their tails between their legs. Then things escalated. A special meeting. Rumors. Olivia going door to door claiming I was a danger. Drones buzzing over my pasture. Residents too scared to speak up. That night, sitting alone with the orange notice on my table, I realized something. If Olivia wanted a war of paperwork, intimidation, and fake authority, I would respond with law, discipline, and precision. So I called 3 numbers. The sheriff, the county, and finally a number I hadn't dialed in years. Base Logistics. Colonel Turner, the voice said. Heard you might need some support. I'm coordinating a community relations drill, I told him. Fully legal, fully documented. I'd like some personnel for a training rotation. How many men you thinking? Enough, I said to make the point. When dawn broke the next morning, the earth trembled. Softly but unmistakably. Engines. Dozens of them. Then voices. Cadence. Organization. The kind you feel in your bones before you see it. 300 Marines marched into position along the public right-of-way bordering Silver Creek Estates. Not armed, not aggressive. Just disciplined, orderly, and absolutely impossible to ignore. From my porch, coffee in hand, I watched residents pour out of their houses like ants kicking open their hill. Kids cheered. Dogs barked. Neighbors filmed. Then Olivia burst out her front door. "What is this?" she shrieked, pointing wildly. "You can't bring tanks into my community." Jake, one of the Marines, replied calmly. "Ma'am, those are Humvees, and we're conducting authorized training." "Authorized by WHO," she screamed. "Sheriff County." "Marine Command," I said as I walked up with my coffee mug. "Would you like to see the paperwork?" Her face twisted into something between horror and heartbreak. I actually saw the moment she realized she'd lost control, but it got worse for her. As the Marines set up navigation drills, patched potholes, cleaned drainage ditches, work the HOA should have done years ago, the county noticed the sudden activity and decided to perform a little inspection of their own. Within hours, county officials were photographing unpermitted constructions at Olivia's own house, blocked drainage, violations she'd ignored, financial discrepancies her board didn't even know existed. Cameras rolled, residents whispered, someone said karma's got perfect aim today. Olivia tried to argue, but the universe wasn't done with her yet. When a news crew arrived, she launched into a rant about HOA sovereignty, which is hilarious because that doesn't exist anywhere except in the minds of people like her. Right in the middle of her speech, the sprinkler system on her lawn malfunctioned and blasted her with a geyser of brown sludge. She slipped, fell, clipboard flying, cameras catching every second in crisp HD. She scrambled up, drenched and furious, screaming at anyone within 5 feet, calling everyone traitors and conspirators, residents, reporters, the county, the Marines, even the sheriff. For the first time, her board pushed back. Her vice president muttered, "Maybe you should step back, Olivia." She spun on him like a wildcat. "You're all against me." And that was it. Her reign ended right there in front of everyone. By sunset, county officers were carrying boxes out of her house. Her fellow board members voted her out unanimously. Investigations opened. Mismanaged funds uncovered. HOA power collapsed. She left Silver Creek the next morning. No goodbye, no victory lap, no clipboard. And I didn't celebrate, didn't laugh, didn't brag. I simply stood at my fence as the sun dipped behind the hills, watching the last of the news vans drive away. Boundaries, I whispered to myself, aren't about keeping people out. They're about keeping peace in. Lesson: when someone tries to rule you with fake authority, stand firm, because the truth is the strongest ally you'll ever have.